Welcome back to Rachel Resets. For those of you who have been following this series, we are seeing how far we can stretch $80, how many meals we can make for one person using only $80. For those of you who have been following and wondered where I went, I started a college program, and school and full-time working and YouTube has proved to be a lot, and so YouTube dropped off briefly, but I'm hoping to bring it back up as I start posting videos a little more regularly now. This is what we had left at the end of this last week. As you can see, we still had some egg salad left among a lot of other things. We have quite a bit left, and I'm hoping to stretch it for one more week. Starting off with day 22 breakfast, I boiled 2 eggs, and one of those eggs I sliced in half, added a dash of salt and pepper on top, and then added some toast, which I toasted in my toaster oven, and add a little marmalade on it. And here is our very simple but filling breakfast. Day 22 lunch, we took that leftover egg salad, put that onto 2 toasted slices of English muffin, along with a bed of lettuce, a couple of slices of our jalapeno, and an orange on the side, and that completes a really simple and quick, easy lunch. For dinner, we're making shakshuka using a little bit of oil, about a tablespoon, a half a cup of our diced up potato that is left, a fourth a cup of diced up carrots, a fourth a cup of our onion as well, and then we're just sauteing that until it's almost tender, adding a half a cup of water and 1 tablespoon of tomato paste, along with a 1/4 teaspoon of cumin, as well as a 1/4 teaspoon of our chicken bouillon. I next added just a dash of pepper, stirred all this together until it was well combined and mostly cooked through. Then I cracked an egg into the center and covered it just for about 2 minutes until the egg had reached my desired level of doneness. Added a dash of salt and pepper on top. I like my egg to still have a little bit of runniness. I topped it with a little garnish of a slice of jalapeno, and as you can see inside, it's fairly runny. If you want it cooked a little bit more well done, you can just keep that lid on a little bit longer and it will be a little more firm inside. For breakfast on day 23, a big shout out to Amy Clark and Mary Rayvon, who suggested I do some sort of a quiche for breakfast. To start off, I used 1/2 cup of flour, 2 tablespoons of margarine, and a dash of salt. I cut the butter or margarine into the flour mixture, then added 2 tablespoons of water until it had kind of gotten into a soft, pliable dough that was going to be easy to press into the bottom of my pan. I did have 2 extra tablespoons of water just in case, and you can kind of adjust as needed, as sometimes when you measure flour, it measures slightly different depending on how packed in you pack your flour into your measuring cups. I used the edge of my fork to just make a little scallop, but this is just design and preference, so you don't have to do that, but that's what I did for these little mini quiches, which we are making 11 of. I took 2 eggs and cracked them into a bowl, then added half of a slice of diced up ham into that mixture, along with a tablespoon of water, a dash of salt, and a dash of pepper as well. Mixed all of this together and beat those eggs well. The water is going to create little steam pockets and make these eggs a little fluffier than they would be without it. I poured a little bit of the mixture into the bottom of each of these little tins, and then when I had baked them at 350 for about 10 minutes, and here is my breakfast. I served it alongside one of our mandarin oranges, which I had peeled. I had 5 or 6 I should say, for this first day, and then I still had 5 left over in that tin, which we'll just use alongside another orange for a future breakfast. Day 23 lunch, thank you to Anna Albert for suggesting that we make these tortillas. I used a cup of flour, a third a cup of water, a dash of salt, and 1 tablespoon of oil. Then mixed it all together until I had a nice soft dough. I made 3 large tortillas, which I rolled out onto my flat surface and flipped once they had had some little bubbles and a little bit of those brown markings on either side. Now we're going to make a wrap to go with our lunch side, which Anna Albert suggested doing some tortilla chips. So that is what we're going to make. I took a fourth a cup of onion, fourth a cup of chopped ham, and a fourth a cup of our spinach and sauteed this together. Added a little dash of Italian seasoning and a little salt as well to the mixture. And then I'm just going to stuff that into a tortilla to make one of the wraps. To start on the tortilla chips, I poured 3 tablespoons worth of oil into the bottom of my pan and let that heat up. Then I took a pizza slicer and sliced up one of those tortillas into little triangles and just gave those a flip whenever they started to get brown on one side. I tried not to get them too brown because I know that they'll continue to crisp up once they are out of the oil and starting to cool down. I added a dash of garlic powder as well as a little bit of salt to add some flavor to these chips. These were one of my favorite things I made this time around because I've never made tortilla chips before, but I find they're actually pretty easy to make. So now I know for the future. Here's our lunch, and this is going to be very filling. I wanted to show you the snap of the chip because these got so nice and crispy and just the perfect texture. They're a nice thick tortilla chip. If you want thinner chips, you can of course make your tortillas very thin, and that will make your chips thinner. Day 23 dinner, I'm making a simple ham rice, just heating up about a tablespoon of oil, a third a cup of onions, which you can see I had that heat on way too high, then a fourth a cup of cubed up carrots, and a whole slice of our ham, which I had diced up into squares. I added a fourth a teaspoon of our bouillon cube, as well as our last half a cup of brown rice that we had steamed and frozen. I did go ahead and thaw that a little bit in the microwave just to make it easier to mix in. Added a dash of pepper as well, and then served this alongside a breadstick, which I had heated up, and add a little bit of garlic powder and a little salt on top. And you can see this breadstick has stayed really nice and soft. I have found that if you take bread and you freeze it as soon as it's cooled down, that when you take it out of the freezer, if you just microwave it for a few seconds, you're going to have nice soft bread just like when you baked it. Day 24 breakfast. Thank you, Queso Costa, for suggesting we make this pineapple compote over scones. To start off, I put a cup of flour into a bowl and just kind of diced in 3 tablespoons of our margarine along with 1 teaspoon of vanilla flavoring, added in a fourth a cup of sugar as well as a pinch of baking soda. I didn't think I had a measurement small enough because I've lost my 1/8 teaspoon measurement, but I think an 1/8 might have been alright. Added a dash of salt along with a fourth a cup of pineapple juice and mixed all this together. I got a really nice soft dough, which I shaped into these little triangles so it looked kind of like a scone, or at least some of the scones that I've traditionally seen. I baked it at 350 for about 20 minutes and we had this nice brown bottom. You can shake yours out and just check the bottoms to make sure golden brown on the bottom. These did not brown on the top much at all. Now I'm getting to work on that compote, so I took 5 tablespoons of our pineapple in the juice and added a fourth a cup of sugar along with the remainder of our orange marmalade that we had made, which was about a tablespoon. I added a dash of salt just to help to cut the sweetness, and once you can see that your spatula is making a little bit of a clear path temporarily before it all comes back together, that's when you know it's thick enough to take off, because it will continue to thicken once you take it off of the heat. Here is our breakfast. These scones turned out really delicious, and I think that pineapple just adds a really nice fresh but sweet topping to it. So in place of like a powdered sugar or some kind of drizzle on top, these made a really nice sweet treat for breakfast and would be perfect along tea, but I unfortunately don't have any anymore with this haul. So if you had some left from earlier in the haul, that would be a perfect addition to this. Now I'm making a chicken potato salad, which is going to be a cold salad. I took potato, which I cubed up about a cup worth, just boiled it into this hot water until it was tender but not mushy yet. Then drained off that water, added some ice cubes and cooled it down, and then drained that off again. To my cold potatoes, I added a third cup of chicken that I had chopped up from the freezer, 2 tablespoons of our homemade mayo, a dash of salt and pepper, a fourth a cup of diced carrots, a fourth a teaspoon of Italian seasoning, along with 1 teaspoon of sugar. You can leave the sugar out if you'd rather. I mixed it all together and added a buttered garlic knot on the side. Day 24 dinner is going to be dumplings and ham with a toasted English muffin on the side. I'm making these dumplings to start off with using 1 cup of flour. I also cracked an egg, and I'm beat it and just used 1 tablespoon for the dumplings. Added a dash of salt along with 1/4 cup of water, then mixed all of this together. You should have a fairly loose batter at the end of this. I'll show you the texture in a second. I also added a dash of Italian seasoning and a dash of garlic powder as well. And here's our batter. As you can see, it's a little bit softer. It's about the consistency of drop donuts that you drop into oil. And we are doing a similar technique, only with less oil. I put about 2 tablespoons worth of oil into a pan, heated that up, and then dropped little bits of the dough onto my pan. And we're making just some basic egg dumplings onto this pan, flipping them when they get brown on one side and then checking the other side, and once the other side is also brown, we're fishing those out of there and placing them onto a pan or onto a paper towel. And I just put mine in a bowl and didn't mess with the paper towel this time around. It made 2 pans worth for me, but if you had a larger pan, you might only need 1 pan worth of these dumplings. I set all these aside, and then we're getting to work on our sauce in that same pan. I added 1/3 cup of our chopped up onion and just let that kind of steam and brown until it started getting a little bit of color. Then I added in 1/3 cup of diced up ham, as well as 2 of our tablespoons of tomato paste, which had started to thaw. As you saw, they stuck to my fingers. But 1/4 cup of water is what you'll add next, along with a dash of Italian seasoning. It might be closer to 1/8 of a teaspoon of Italian seasoning. Stirred all of that together and let that simmer until all those onions had fully cooked. Then added the dumplings back in, along with 1/2 cup of green beans, and stirred all of this together. The green beans add a really nice pop of color into this dish. And then I toasted an English muffin on the side and add a little margarine onto that English muffin. These were really delicious. I like this take on dumplings. It is different than the kind of dumplings that I have made traditionally, or potato dumplings, but still delicious. On breakfast day 25, thank you to Nancy Colt for the idea to make a pineapple bread pudding. I started off with 2 cups of cubed bread, 1 cracked egg, and I also microwaved a couple of cubes of our pineapple and juice to make a pineapple juice mixture. Added 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon powder, along with 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla flavoring. There's our pineapple that we microwaved until it had re-thawed out and it got nice and soft. That's going to help saturate our bread and really going to bring that pineapple flavor home. I took a little bit of margarine and greased 2 baking dishes, which are about, I think these are 2x4s, and spread out our mixture between the 2 pans. Then took a teaspoon of sugar and spread that out evenly over the top of both of those pans, so they both got about 1/2 teaspoon of sugar on top, just to help with caramelization. Then I added a dash of cinnamon on top as well, just for a little extra color and some more of that cinnamon flavor, which I think goes really well with pineapple. And baked this at 350 for about 20 minutes. When it came out, I had one of those for breakfast alongside a whole orange, which I'd sliced in half, and the other pan is just for snack, just for extra, or if you want it for breakfast and you want a bigger breakfast, that works too. Day 25 lunch, we're having a sausage egg sandwich and carrot sticks. I took 1/4 cup of our ground sausage, which is already cooked, added it to my pan along with 1/3 cup of onion, let that onion and sausage cook a little bit longer, then added in the rest of that scrambled egg from earlier, from when we made those dumplings. I put all this on top of a toasted bagel and added some carrot sticks on the side. You could also put a little mayo on your bagel if you like. Day 25 dinner is going to be sweet and sour chicken over crusty bread. We're adding 1/3 cup of water to a pan, along with 1/4 cup of our chopped onions, 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, 1 tablespoon of ketchup. Next, 2 ice cubes worth of pineapple and pineapple juice, adding 1/4 cup of chicken, which we chopped up, and a teaspoon of sugar, along with a teaspoon of vinegar, and a dash of salt and pepper. I let all of this cook all the way through until those pineapple cubes and the tomato paste cubes fully melted and incorporated into the sauce. Then I took our bread knot and stuck that under the broiler so it got really nice and crusty. Then poured our chicken, sweet and sour chicken mixture over top. And here we have dinner on day 25. Day 26 breakfast. Again, thank you, Queso Costa, for these delicious pineapple compote scones. These were delicious for 2 breakfasts since we made 4 scones. Day 26 lunch, we're making a simple salad using the remaining of our lettuce, a couple of slivers of onion, a little bit of our jalapeno, which I sliced up, some of our carrots, which I also sliced up. I took that other hard-boiled egg, which we had made earlier in the week, and sliced that over the top. Added as well some homemade croutons that I made. I was showing you, I seasoned them with a little bit of Italian seasoning as well, and just toasted this in our toaster oven here. I added a little salt and pepper on top of that egg, which I had sliced, and also added a breadstick, which I put a little bit of margarine on and a little bit of garlic powder and salt on top as well, just to give it that extra Olive Garden flair. Then I heated that up as well and put that on the side. And here we have our salad. I add a little bit of our dressing. I'll include that French dressing recipe again down below. We made it in the first of the videos, and here is our finished lunch. Dinner on day 26 is going to be a chicken and green bean stuffing with a side of corn, and I'm making 2 servings worth of the chicken and green bean stuffing. I started off with about a teaspoon of oil in a pan, which I heated up, then added a third a cup of onions and a half a cup of chopped chicken. Then I added a half a cup of green beans, a fourth a teaspoon of cumin, a half a cup of water, and 2 of our bagged servings of stuffing, which we had made earlier in the week. Like I said, this is going to make 2 servings worth. I mixed all of that around until the stuffing had fully soaked up all the moisture and gotten to a great consistency. And then on the side, I served it with about a third a cup of the corn that I steamed and add a little salt and pepper to it. For breakfast, thanks to Mary Raven, we have these quiches, which I had 5 of them left. This is just a reused clip with the 6 in it. So day 27 lunch, thanks to Anna Albert, is going to be this ham, spinach, and egg wrap. To my pan, I added a fourth a cup of chopped ham, a fourth a cup of spinach, a fourth a cup of onion, 1 tablespoon of tomato paste, a fourth of a cup of water, and a little bit of Italian seasoning. I toasted one of our bagels on the side, and once all of that had fully thickened and combined, I put that on top of my heated up and toasted bagel, and here's our delicious sandwich. Day 27 dinner is going to be a chicken broccoli pasta. I put about a tablespoon of oil in a pan along with a fourth a cup of onion, let that brown slightly, then added my cup of rotini and a half a cup of chopped broccoli. Then I added a little bit of our chicken, which is about a fourth a cup. I also added 3 tablespoons of our mayo, hoping that it would make more of a creamy sauce, but I really should have waited on the mayo until I had finished baking or cooking everything, the rotini and everything around it. So I would recommend to add that last and just stir it in as you are about to serve it instead of while it's still cooking. I finished it off with a half a teaspoon of chicken bouillon and a dash of salt and pepper, and here's dinner. Now we're on to our last day, day 28. I took about a teaspoon of margarine and popped that in the bottom of the pan just to make this fried egg. Cracked our egg into the pan and add a little salt and pepper. We're keeping this breakfast really simple. A fried egg on a toasted bagel. You could add a little smear of mayo if you wanted, and an orange on the side. For lunch, we're doing a spinach egg wrap. Thanks again, Anna Albert, for suggesting we make a few things with wraps and tortillas. I just cracked this egg into a little bit of margarine, made sure and cut that center so that it wouldn't make a big mess as we're eating it, and then flipped it once it had set a little bit. Added a little salt and pepper as well, just for some flavor. Once I had finished cooking the egg, I scooped that out and spooned it onto my waiting heated tortilla. I did cut the egg in half just so that it spread out a little more evenly onto the tortilla. Then I got to work on making the little veggie side that's going to go inside of the wrap, which includes a fourth a cup of the spinach, a fourth a cup of onion, a dash of garlic powder, as well as a little bit of salt. I mixed all this well, let everything sit and cook together, and then as the flavors had all married together, I scooped it out onto my tortilla. And now I've got our delicious spinach and egg wrap. Our last dinner is going to be this chicken and green bean stuffing with corn. At this point, we've used up almost everything, except it wouldn't be one of my videos unless we made some dessert. So thanks to Anna Albert for suggesting we make some mini pineapple upside down cupcakes. I used a cup of flour, a fourth a teaspoon of baking soda, a dash of salt, a fourth a teaspoon of cinnamon powder, then added 3 tablespoons of sugar and a fourth a teaspoon of vanilla flavoring. I added 2 tablespoons of oil, and then I took some of that pineapple that I still had left and chopped it up and minced it up really finely and added a tablespoon of that minced pineapple into the mixture along with a fourth a cup of pineapple juice. I also took the remainder of our egg from earlier, had 2 tablespoons worth of egg, which I added in, and mixed all of this together until it made a nice thin batter. Once I had that ready, I took my mini muffin tin and took some margarine and just greased those really well. Then I took a tablespoon of sugar and just sprinkled a little bit of sugar at the bottom of each of those tins to try to caramelize the bottom a little bit, and added some of that minced pineapple. I ended up having about a fourth a cup of pineapple left, so I added a little bit in the bottom of each of those tins just to add that pineapple. Once we flip it out, it should be on top of those little mini cupcakes. This made 12 of them. I spread them evenly into my pan and I preheated my oven to 350 degrees. We ended up baking these for 14 minutes or until they had sprung back to the touch and were a little light brown on the top. Then we were able to flip them out, and here's how they looked like flipped out. They have all that pineapple now on top instead of on bottom, and they're each really nice and soft and tender. This I could have made earlier in the week as well and had it all throughout the week. You could wait to the end of the week and have it as a treat for the last couple days while you figure out what you're getting at the grocery store. And you might be asking what's left. So here's what's left. We have flour. We have all of our seasonings still have a pretty good amount in them, along with like our vanilla flavoring and our baking goods. We have a little mayonnaise left, 2 tablespoons of our margarine, a lot of ketchup left, plenty of salt and pepper for months, probably for months down the road. Sugar, plenty of sugar, and baking soda. We have about a cup of oil. I honestly thought I would have more oil at the end of the week, but we do go through the oil with a lot of these recipes, and then vinegar, of course. So just pantry staples at the end. Thanks for sticking with me through all of this series. I hope to have another good video coming your way, so stay tuned.